people who have understood, who have put life in understanding complexity of India, will tell you that it is not a quick fix solution. There are quick fix solutions, but there will be a fake solution. It will be complicating the problem. If there is cancer in part of the body, you must not be taking more anacin and aspirin or some of those quick relief things. It is asking for a journey towards idealism. From opportunism to idealism, this is a national challenge. And this challenge has been taken several hundreds of thousands of people. And that story will come with Professor Yogendra Yadav's presentation before you, that what has happened since 2nd October when we made this commitment to the country, that we will give you alternative. You don't have to choose between lesser evils. You have to choose between good and bad, ideal and opportunist, failed and the one which needs to be given a chance. And that process from 2nd October to now today, late April, it has grown into a mass mobilization in one of the most passive parts of India, and that is Delhi, where 10 lakh people have signed letters about Bijli Pani question. And they have changed the mood of those who are victim of this Bijli Pani failure in kasbas and mohallas and the villages of India. They are seeing that here are new people who are not talking about caste, who are not talking about religion, who are not talking about language. They are talking about peene ka pani or ghar mein chalane ke liye batti. Who are these people? Let us give them a chance. That mood is growing, but it will grow in a multifold manner if the people who are so-called success stories, all of you, don't take yourself into a trip of modesty. All of you are role models for mohallas from where you have come. और आपके बाद के बच्चे परेशान हैं आप लोगों के चक्कर में कि देखो वो कितना अच्छा लड़का था, पढ़ाई किया चुपचाप और फिर अमेरिका गया और अपने मम्मी पापा को भी ले गया या कम से कम वहाँ से कुछ न कुछ करता है. You are the role model, but when you say that this is all foul, this is all failure, and we are also part of the failure, we don't feel very proud of leaving the country and coming here, but what can we do? We have to choose between two evils, leaving the country and living a better life, cleaner life, or living in the country and living a very frustrated life. We have found individual solutions and individual peace, but we need collective solutions and collective peace, and for that you are available to work and help. And when there is an email coming from Boston or New Jersey or London or Berlin, it makes us feel that yes, those who are so-called success stories are also sharing this common concern for a better India, better democracy, better politics. So please continue this process, and this process will require certainly more communication. We are here today to give you more time, not for lecture, but for your own questions, so that there is more clarification, your suggestions, so there is more rapidity, more impact, more connectivity. I look forward to your question, and I now request Himanshu ji to take care of the next part, which is Professor Yogendra Yadav's presentation, and then some question answers. And I also want to request, it's already 2:20, so if we put an outer time limit of around 4 o'clock to complete this process of mutual communication and interaction, 4 to 4:30, then I think things will be on the right side. आखिरी सवाल ये था कि आज महिलाएं फिलाडेल्फिया की मीटिंग से कम आई हैं, ये आपका जिम्मेदारी बना या महिलाओं का जिम्मेदारी बना? Thank you.
Thank you so much. बहुत धन्यवाद Dr. Anand Kumar. He shared his thoughts, experience, his job profile, and what he loves to do. And now I would like to invite Professor Yogendra Yadav to share his ideas with us. Please, round of applause.
Friends, my dilemma is Rahul Dravid's dilemma. You see, when you come to bat one down, Virendra Sehwag has already scored a century. So you feel relaxed that the team has scored well, I don't really need to do much. At the same time, you think it's a very hard act to follow. There are limited overs left. And how do you maintain the same pace and take the team to where it needs to? So you can understand my problem. But anyway, one has to take fresh guard and start. The idea of India is ready for a renewal. India is ready for second edition, India 2.0, as they would call in your language. The people of India, especially the younger people of India, are full of energy, full of ideas, full of audacity to make it happen. But those in charge of the destiny of India are determined not to let this happen. They are determined to drag India back to those very things which it has struggled and achieved some minimum platform to give us a second wind of life. This, to my mind, is the real challenge. This, to my mind, is where we come into play. But let me spell this out. India was an impossible nation. Impossible in the simple sense that 65 years ago, if you had any sense of how the world has evolved, and if someone asked you, will this country with 1,000 languages, so many castes and communities, with not just multiple religions, but also religious conflict and a bloody partition, will this country survive as one single nation? Any reasonable person would have said then, not more than 10 to 15 years. This is what was written in 1960s. There was a famous book, India, the Most Dangerous Decade, which actually predicted that India would collapse by late 60s. Yugoslavia collapsed, Soviet Union disintegrated, India did not. So this impossible nation, we were an impossible nation, we have survived. India was one of the most improbable democracies in the world. Improbable in a very simple sense, that if you look at the global record of the relationship between economic level of prosperity and stability of democracy, the simple rule is, unless you have $20,000 a year kind of per capita income, chances of a democracy originating or surviving are next to zilch. And this is not my hypothesis, all this is solid literature on democracy in the last 200 years. Adam Shaversky in New York has done all this analysis. If you look at the world of the last 150 years, there are some tiny exceptions to this rule, and there is one major exception, only one major exception to this law of democracy and economic prosperity, which is India. This was the most improbable democracy which survived, and where democracy is the only game in town now. You speculate about everything else. All of us are speculating about how wretched and messy the next government will be. But we are not speculating about whether India will be democracy in 2015 or not. We were a colony, condemned to poverty, condemned to being a second-rate citizen in the global community, condemned to being mental slaves. I cannot say that we have completely reversed this third thing, but we've done something. In the last 20 years, we've built some minimum platform to be able to take on some of these challenges. We haven't yet taken on these challenges. Poverty remains one of the biggest blots on our democratic record, on our record as a civilization, as a nation. But we have broken from that 1%, 2% growth rate, which characterized India for 30, 40 years. We built a platform to be able to do something. In cultural and intellectual terms, we may not have transformed ourselves yet, but in some ways, for the first time, I see some confident Indians. At least Bollywood has stopped aping the Hollywood. They feel they are making their kind of movies, and possibly the world can learn from them. I see this happening in some intellectual circles. Some of your intellectuals are now those who are being emulated by the rest of the world. Anandji said something very nice in passing. He said, we are setting our own models. After 65 years of an impossible nation, an improbable democracy, and a downright colony, the idea of India progressed to a stage where it could present itself as a model that learns from itself, does not try to live someone else's biography, but who is confident enough to live its own life. We are ready for second edition. What would the second edition look like? Second edition would mean that from a country which has spent these many years of anxiety about whether we will remain one country or not, now you say, all right, we are here to stay. We are a one country. Now can we attend to all kinds of specific diversities more carefully? There is this woman, Sharmila, who's been sitting on hunger strike for more than 10 years. Can we go and listen to her? Can we see what her problem really is? Can we look at linguistic minorities in Bengal and see why is it that they don't get their dues, notwithstanding all the great pretensions of the rulers there? Can we try and look at Bastar district of Chhattisgarh and try and see why do we have the kind of situation that we have there today? In the arena of democracy, second step would be to say, all right, we've ensured that there are elections, we've ensured that people who get voted out are voted out, rulers are changed, but can we now bring power closer to the people? Can we give them real Swaraj? Can we have serious decentralization of power? Can we have, as Anandji said, participatory democracy, not just a formal democracy where you vote once in 5 years? In economic matters, second step would be to say, all right, now that we have some modicum of growth, can we make this growth work for the bottom half of India? Can we establish a connect between the two? Can we begin to take ecological concerns more seriously rather than an ecologically devastating kind of an industrialization that we are trying to copy? Can we move forward? Intellectually, can we say that we Indians can in some ways become the model for the world? Model not by way of trying to copy what the US does in its neighborhood and trying to do the same with our own neighbors, but by saying having capacity, having some power leads to different kind of behavior. Ironically, 60 years ago, when India had much less power in real terms, Indian voice on the global platform was much more loud, much more coherent, was listened to with much greater respect. Today, we have greater economic power, more military clout, and our voice is not taken seriously at all. Because we have no voice, because we have nothing coherent to say. Because when Burma practices the kind of brutal dictatorship that it did, the one country which never had the courage to say a word about it was India. The biggest democracy next to Burma could not say a word about what was happening there. Today, of course, we all join in applauding Aung San Suu Kyi, but when she needed us, we were not there. So, India is ready for its second edition. Its younger generation is. When I see younger Indians, not just here in India, everywhere, even in rural India, I see a different kind of hope, a different kind of energy, which I did not see in my own generation. I know every generation loves to think of itself as the very best and thinks that, their days were the golden days and everything else has declined after that. But honestly, I see something else. I see girls and boys more confident of expressing their affection for each other, which absolutely turns me green with envy when I look at that. I see them with much greater sense of confidence about themselves and what they can do, which is not what was the case. Earlier, the ambitions were somewhat limited. When I look at some of the most creative Indians, whether in music or in cinema, in photography, in literature, I see them charting new course, which was not the case earlier. But as I said, those in charge of destiny of India are determined to drag India back into all those issues of the first edition of India, the idea of India. What battles are we fighting? We are fighting battles of whether a political party should be ruled by Bhanja Bhatijas, daughters and sons. We are fighting battles of whether the idea of India should try to emulate the idea of Pakistan or not. Let me just spell this out. Because the difference between the idea of India and the idea of Pakistan is simply this, that the idea of Pakistan is constructed around a religious identity. Idea of Pakistan, in that sense, forgive me for saying so, is a very poor copy of German nationalism. It's a fake, poor copy of German nationalism, where you try to build a nation around race, language, and religion. The idea of India was a more confident idea, where we said, we will, this is Tagore's idea, this is Gandhi's idea. We said, we will incorporate all kinds of diversities and create a nation where no one thought a nation was possible. It was that audacious idea. And today, from that audacious idea, we are back, there are Indians who want to turn a Hindu Pakistan in India. Those who want to replicate Rajapaksa of Sri Lanka, the man who led Sri Lanka to civil war. Not he led, the entire thing, politics which led to civil war, of which he is an outcome. We want to replicate that kind of lowest form, lowest common denominator politics in our country. In economy, instead of saying, how do we move forward, many friends, and this indeed has many friends that I have worked with, want to drag India back into those times when we had neither growth nor justice. So that, to me, is the paradox of our times. A country wanting to move forward, its people wanting to move forward, and its rulers wanting to drag it backwards. But the spirit of a country shows in the fact that people refuse to let them be chained. The spirit of India expresses itself despite everything. And I see the Anna movement as an expression of the spirit of India, which struggled, which burst out against all that the system had designed for it. I have believed and I have said so, and I should underline that I said so from Ramlila Maidan in Anna's presence. I said this movement is not about Anna Hazare the person. There is an Anna in every village. There is an Anna in everyone's heart. We have all kind of muck and dirt inside us, but we also have a little Anna inside us. And when we say it's Anna Hazare's movement, we all seek to celebrate that little Anna inside us, little Anna in our neighborhood, and to transform this country. So in that sense, Anna Hazare, the person, was symbolic of that triumph of good over evil. I said, this movement is not about Lokpal. The fact is that the technical legal details of the Lokpal bill and what it meant and what the government wanted is something which not many people understood. Maybe most of you did, but I can tell you that on the streets, those thousands and lakhs of people who were coming out on streets, they did not know what the technical details of these laws were. What they could see was something else. They could see these rulers who were unaccountable. Though they could see those rulers who thought that they were kings and queens. And they saw hubris, they saw arrogance. And they said, "Inko theek kar denge." We'll put these rulers in their place. This is what they were after. They didn't know what the CBI and class 3 and class 4 and all those technical issues were. Anna movement was therefore about transition from subjecthood to citizenship. People were saying, we are not praja, we are nagrik. We can determine something, we can do something. So it was not about Lokpal, it was about Lokbal. It was about people's power being asserted against state power. And finally, Anna movement, as we now know it, was not merely about corruption in the limited sense of bribery. Bribery was the starting point. A Raja was the starting point. Commonwealth Games was the starting point. And the brazen hypocrisy of the ruling class was the starting point. But the more you look at it, the more I think about it, I think this was a protest of the spirit of India against the corruption of the very idea of India. This corruption was taking place in many forms. Brazen bribery was only one most visible form of it. It was against corruption of the very idea of India. India was standing up and saying, we won't take it, we want to change it. This idea took the shape of a political party. Many people asked then, what is the need to make it a party? It's a good movement, nice job, should be done, but why do it in the form of a party? I said then, I've said it again, and I had said it even from Ramlila Maidan, even in the very first movement when I was given the honor of speaking from there. I said, fight against corruption cannot be taken to its logical end without entering the terrain of politics. Because corruption begins with politics, and any serious solution to corruption has to be fought in the domain of politics. Yes, you can do tiny little good things in this country without touching politics, I cannot deny it. You want to open one nice school, you can do that. You want to control one chota police inspector, you can get him caught without entering into politics. But if you are serious about your struggle against politics, against corruption, or if you are serious about your resolve to create a new India where every child can get decent education, if you are unwell, you can go to a hospital and receive some treatment. If you are serious about any one of these challenges, I can tell you, not in Europe, not in North America, but in India, there is no way you can do any of these things without taking on the challenge of politics. If you want to take on this very simple thing, let us say, if we simply see the image of these, as I see every time, image of women carrying those buckets of water, you don't even have those nice ghadas anymore. You know, these buckets, and the buckets, I mean, these silly buckets don't even have a good handle. They actually cut through your skin the way you lift those buckets. And I see those women carrying 2 buckets in their hands just to carry drinking water to their house. And if your heart cries out as an Indian, and if you say, I'll not let any Indian suffer this ignominy, at least this will stop in our country. Women will not have to walk 1 kilometer to carry drinking water, and that too of a dubious quality, to their house. If you want to do just this, and let alone the country, if you want to do it in one district of any place you want to name, come to Haryana, my place, which is a semi-arid part of Haryana. And if I want to say in Mahendragarh district, no woman would have to walk to get drinking water. Try it. In one village, you can solve the problem. You can do something about it. In 2 villages, you might succeed if you are a powerful person. If you want to do it in one district of Mahendragarh, I can bet you within 1 year, I'll find you in the domain of politics. Because politics is the yug dharma of our times. And in every age and time, in every age, there is one activity around which the entire society is governed. 150 years ago, if you wanted to do something important, you would be in social reforms. Swami Dayanand, Vivekanand, Ram Mohan Roy, whatever. 500 years ago, you would have been a Sufi saint. But in the India of the last 100 years, and at least of the foreseeable 50, 40 years, in this country, if you want to do anything deep, enduring, meaningful, you have to get into politics. When students ask me for definition of politics, I say just this, and I'm sorry, I don't know how to say that in English. I say to everyone, शुभ को सच में बदलने की जिद का नाम पॉलिटिक्स है। जो शुभ है, whatever you think is your ideal, whatever you think is beautiful, whatever you think is worth emulating, whatever you want, whatever are your dreams for your country, उसको सच में बदलना, to turn it into reality, not just in books, not just in dreams. If you want to have these small dreams, no woman would have to suffer this. Any child who goes to government school will learn mathematics and English and Hindi. I mean, you must have seen that there is a report on the quality of education in rural India which shows that more than 50% of the students who go to school in rural India, Sarkari and non-Sarkari school all included, more than 50% of class 5 students cannot read an ordinary paragraph of class 2 textbook from their own school. Class 5 standard student cannot read a class 2 standard paragraph. And what's that paragraph? That paragraph is, आज शाम को बारिश हुई, मैं और मेरी दीदी ऊपर बारिश में गए, हम बहुत भीगे, ठंड लगी, नीचे आए, माँ ने चाय पिलाई और हमने समोसा खाया, बड़ा मजा आया. Class 5 standard child cannot read this paragraph. More than 50% children in your country cannot read this paragraph. This is the truth of the so-called education of your country. You know, if you want to change things of this kind, politics in a deeper sense, अगर वो शुभ है, अगर सिर्फ इतनी छोटा सा hope है, I want a country where this does not happen. You want to make it a reality. Then the audacity to dream this, to be able to say, this I will make real. To me, this is Rajniti. So, this is what Aam Aadmi Party is into right now. Aam Aadmi Party, I mean, I can't possibly do that advertising spiel that is usually done for all organizations. I must say, honestly, frankly, modestly, Aam Aadmi Party is nothing but the name of an opportunity which happens to have arrived. I don't think we created this opportunity. This would be completely unreal and immodest to imagine that those of us who had an opportunity to be at Ramlila Maidan created that opportunity. You know, it happens. It happens in history. You know, you can be banging your head somewhere here for 20 years and nothing happens. And all kinds of Indians had done it to this wall. And suddenly 4 bricks would fall from that corner where you were not banging your head. It happens. This is what's happened really in our country. The ball called the system has suddenly given way at a point where no one imagined it would give way. Suddenly a ray of light has come. Some air is coming through. And this moment comes but very rarely. All of us who have watched India, even casually, we know this came in 1977. We know a bit of it came in 1989. We know how these opportunities have been squandered, that this opportunity comes after 10 or 15 years, and within 6 months or a year, the window of opportunity closes. Because the forces that want to close this opportunity are very, very powerful forces. So a window has suddenly opened, and there are very powerful, determined forces which are going to close it. It is your and my responsibility to ensure that the window does not close. And this opportunity today happens to be called Aam Aadmi Party. It's a tiny thing. Compared to what the big political organizations in this country are, we are nothing. We cannot possibly compete with them. You know, let alone my giving you any bombastic spiel about what we are going to do right now. The only thing we have with us right now is a sense among ordinary people. Wherever I go, whenever I speak to anyone, they simply say this: आप अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं, आप लोगों में हिम्मत है, लेकिन ये बड़े बड़े मगरमच्छ हैं, आपको खा जाएंगे, छोड़ेंगे भी नहीं आपको कहीं पे. This is a sense that people have about us. You're honest, you're courageous, but I don't know if you would survive. This is our strength. Our strength is ordinary people's sense that we happen to represent what every one of them wanted, felt and wanted to say. When I walked in here, someone said, टीवी पे जब आप आते हैं, आप ऐसा लगता है वो बात बोल रहे हैं जो मैं बोलना चाहता था. You know, I think it's not about me. It's nothing to do with me. I have no such illusions. It is about an occasion in our history where something, someone, a force happens to represent what millions and millions of people wanted to say. And that is where Aam Aadmi Party is, that is what Aam Aadmi Party has come to represent. Are we doing justice to it? I don't know. I honestly, every day I wake up with a sense of how great this opportunity in our country is. And every evening, I go to bed with a sense of how small we, that is to say, people like me, are in the face of such a big opportunity. हिंदी में कहते हैं जूता बड़ा है और पाँव छोटा है. You know, that's the sense I have every day. So I cannot say we are doing great justice to it. What have we done? We have created a constitution by which we have bound our own hands. We know that steps to power lead to slippage. So we created a constitution in which we said no two persons from the same family can occupy any office in this party. Prashant Bhushan ji is our national executive member. So his father, Shanti Bhushan ji, that Anand Bhai referred to, he cannot even be Noida local committee member because no two persons from one family can occupy any position in our family. This is our constitutional rule. We made another rule saying parties, leadership will not do ticket distribution. This business, this obscene business of ticket distribution in our thing has to come to an end. Our party members of the locality will decide who their candidate is. Leadership will not decide this. We wrote it in the constitution. Delhi is our first test. And it will be a struggle. I'm not going to say this is an easy solution, we've worked it out. It's going to be a very big struggle for us. But we've determined that we have to change. Someone has to change this direction through which politics happens. 3, we have laid down very strict norms of financial transparency. Jayesh Bhai told me he monitors us. I did not know that he monitors us sitting here. He monitors us and he told me, your party is getting money more from Delhi, more from this place in Haryana, but not so much from that place. I said, how do you know? He said, no, everything is on your website, I know it. So within 10 days, what about 10, 15 days of our receiving money, we put everything in the public domain. Name, address, amount. As you know, when most parties of this country are asked, Congress and BSP and others are asked, where did you get so much money from? They said, we got anonymous donation, all of which was less than 1,000 rupees. You know, this is the official answer. BSP says, we have never received a single donation from anyone which was more than 10,000 rupees. Therefore, we don't need to declare it. It is anonymous, tiny contribution given by millions of people. We said, we'll put every contribution out in the public domain, make it open. So tomorrow, if we want to do something dirty, if I want to take some dirty money, there would be such strong protocols that I would not know how to hide it. We made it compulsory. And we created for the first time in the history of Indian political parties a system of internal ombudsman, a Lokpal. If you want to complain about me, if you want to complain about him, if you think Yogendra Yadav gives lectures against corruption, but look at his own practice, what does he do? You can write to a Lokpal in my party. The Lokpal will not even ask you, why are you writing from US? Lokpal will not ask you, are you a member of AAP or not? Lokpal will simply look at your evidence, will conduct proceedings, and Lokpal's decision will be binding on the party. Party has appointed the first set of Lokpal, but after that, these Lokpals will renominate themselves. party leadership cannot even decide who the Lokpal is. We have created an independent and autonomous judiciary within the party to judge us. We've created rules, but rules do not make good parties. We have to work hard. We are simultaneously working on 3 more fronts. We are working on party creation. So far, we created something called Mission Bunyad. The idea was to create party units at the district level. We said we'll not begin by creating state level units, nominating people. We said we'll hold open conventions at the district level, let them elect the district leadership. District leadership will then elect the state leadership, which is a democratic way of going about it. We have so far done more than 350 districts of the country. The media has stopped reporting us, so everyone imagines that we are not doing anything. But below the radar, and we thought this is a wonderful opportunity, we are off the radar, let's do something meaningful. So we have held more than 350 district conventions. There are about 650 districts in the country. So we're not quite there, but we have at least 350 units, district level units, and about 10 state level elected units have already been created. And we're working hard on others, should be hitting 450 in about a month or two's times. Second arena, we've started thinking hard about our party's policies. We have started, under Anandji's leadership, something called Vision Swaraj, where we've created about 30 policy committees on various kinds of challenges, from agriculture to defense to foreign policy to FDI and land acquisition and education and health and everything. And we hope to release in about 2 months' time a new policy agenda for the country, a new agenda for India, as it were, India 2.0. What should it look like? What kind of an India do we dream about? That's our second thing. And third, while preparing for all this, we cannot forget Andolan. Movement agitation is the very essence of this. And as I speak today, you know, there are protests again happening in Delhi, where once again, Aam Aadmi Party volunteers are at the forefront. We had this extraordinary agitation on electricity and water. There have been a lot of misgivings about that, and I'd be very happy to answer questions. But 1 million signatures, and I can tell you not one of them was fake signature, because I heard every morning we had conversations and teleconference about which ward is not doing work, which volunteers are flagging, how do we replace volunteers there, how do we work. More than 1 million authentic, genuine signatures have been collected in the city of Delhi, pledging that they would join this agitation. And mind you,
1 million people or 1 million households?
We began with households.